I would like to give a shout out to Craig J for sending me this story. And this story right here is unbelievably, it's tragic, but it's also sick at the same time. Now, this story is something that actually happened years ago, but the reason why I'm talking about it now is because the trial for what's going on because of the story itself is now going on. So in this picture, you see two people by the name of Dylan Redwine and Mark Redwine. Dylan Redwine is the boy and Mark Redwine is the man. The one on the right is the father to this boy, or should I say was. Because back in 2012, around Thanksgiving, this dad, this sperm donor, murdered his son because he confronted his dad over some very interesting and not in a good way type of pictures that he saw or found of his dad. And basically, he found pictures of his dad wearing lingerie and eating from a diaper. Don't ask me what was in the diaper. It's bad enough that he was eating from one. Just don't ask me what was in it. So he basically confronted his dad about those pictures, and then in the midst of the confrontation, he killed his son. So I'm going to go ahead and read the article, and that's what is currently on trial for right now. The long-awaited murder trial of Mark Redwine is underway. The 59-year-old is accused of killing his teenage son Dylan, who disappeared after a court-ordered visit on Thanksgiving of 2012. Now, you gotta think, he's just now going to trial for a murder that he committed damn near a decade ago. Like, really think about that. He murdered his son in 2012, and he's just now going to trial in 2021. On Monday, a district court in Durango, Colorado, heard opening arguments from prosecution and defense lawyers who painted two very different pictures of what happened to the 13-year-old the weekend he was killed. Public defender John Moran argued the teen, who did not want to visit his dad, ran away from his home and may ultimately have been killed by a bear or a mountain lion, pointing to what he said was a tooth mark in his skull. That tooth mark was most likely a bullet hole. But according to Special Deputy District Attorney Fred Johnson, Redwine murdered his son after being confronted about compromising photographs of him dressed in women's underwear, eating. They just had to mention what was in the diaper. And it's exactly what I thought it would be, what hoped it wouldn't be. Eating feces from a diaper, which had earned him the nickname Shit Eater. Dylan was first reported missing on November 19, 2012, the first of his remains were not discovered until the following year. In the woods, about 8 miles from his father's home, his skull was found 2 years later, a further mile away, having suffered blunt force trauma, so his head was separated from his body. His father told investigators he had left his son home alone to run errands, but returned to find him missing. He wasn't arrested until July of 2017. So you're talking about a whole 5 years later, and basically 4 years later, after they found some of his remains. He pled not guilty to charges of second-degree murder and child abuse resulting in death. A damaged relationship exposed with compromising photographs in the hands of a 13-year-old who was disgusted by it, which triggered a violent rage in the defendant, Johnson told the court per the Denver Post. He claimed Redwine killed his son in his living room before dumping his body off a trail, pointing to a trace amount of the boy's blood found in the house and the scent of human remains picked up by the cadaver dogs on the father's clothing and truck. He dismissed the defense theory he ran away and was killed by an animal, pointing out that the boy was found without any identifying items, such as his wallet or backpack. An animal would have no interest in taking that, he said. He also claimed that at 11 p.m. on the night of Dylan's disappearance, as rescue crews were combing the woods, the lights went out at the Redwine house. At a time when most people would have been out in the woods with a flashlight, a time when most people would know to leave the light on in case the child was lost in the woods. At 11 p.m., the defendant's house went dark. Johnson said Dylan was gone. Moran, meanwhile, claimed the photographs, which came from deep within Mark's private life, bore no significance on the case, and there was no way of proving any connection between them and the boy's death. He pointed out that text messages showed Dylan had already confronted his father about them previously, and nothing happened. He claimed the amount of blood was found on an infinitely small, was so infinitely small it could have been found in anyone's living room, and dismissed the cadaver dog evidence as junk science. The case drew national attention after the boy's divorced parents made accusations against each other in an episode of Dr. Phil covering the disappearance. After the trial was delayed multiple times, testimony finally begins on Tuesday. If convicted, Redwine faces up to 48 years in prison. Up to 48 years. So you mean to tell me this guy's been in jail for all this time and he can only get 48 years and he probably gonna get time served, but up to, which means he may not necessarily get all 48 years. But they said up to. You got to pay attention. It didn't say that he will be sentenced to 48 years. This man murdered his son because his son found very provocative and perverted images and disgusting images of his dad and confronted him about it. And because he didn't want his secret to get out of him wanting to wear women's attire and eat fecal matter out of a diaper, which just leads me to believe, and I hate to be vulgar with this, but the story's already, it can't get any more disgusting than this. I would not be surprised if he shitted in that diaper and ate his own shit. I'm just saying. Anybody would be embarrassed by that. And anybody would get confronted for doing something like that. It just happened to be his son. And he murdered his son because of that. Only 13 years old. And he killed him. And I just realized something, that this guy looks like a hillbilly hick version of Mark Hamill. Y'all don't know who that is? That's Luke Skywalker, in the voice of the Joker in the Batman animated series. Y'all can't tell me he don't look just like him. But, wow. It's some sick ass people in this world. I cannot stress that enough. Because, like, his son didn't deserve that. And you shouldn't have been doing that. Like, what the hell was you thinking? And it's crazy because I'm actually looking right now at a picture on the side, and I'm not going to pull it up because they actually have pictures of the dad wearing the lingerie with the picture of him and his son in the corner. I'm not even going to pull that picture up. And those are the pictures that his son confronted him about. I mean, if you was living a double life or whatever like that, then you should have came out and said something way sooner. And I think he probably was fearful that his son was going to say something. And he had to keep the secret. So he killed his own son to hide his secret. But the secret's out now. And not only that, you're going to jail. Although he should have got way more than up to 48 years as an option. This is a life sentence crime with no parole if the capital punishment is not on the table. Life in prison should have been the only option if capital punishment was not available in that state. Up to 48 years. That's some bullshit.